Hello, loves. I hope you're doing well. I'm Tatiana Volk of My Many Interests, and today we are going to be doing a quick reading wrap-up video. I hope you like this format. I do have a quick update before we get into the reading wrap-up portion. As you guys may have known, I said I was going to be posting more art videos on the channel, but I decided that I really wanted to take my art business seriously, and the best way to go about that is to have dedicated platforms for everything related to the business. In this case, it's just art stuff. So all of that I'm right now going to be putting back on my old art channel. I apologize if you came over here from there when I just tried to kill it, but I am giving it another shot. I asked Instagram, everyone said to just use the old channel, so I'm gonna try and we'll see how it goes. And over here will stay the same. You'll still get a little bit of everything, including some art stuff in my vlogs, but I think this channel is mostly going to be book related content with a little bit of life included. So if you're into that, please stick around. Anyway, I'll have a link to that channel. I will be posting a bunch in May for Mermay. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the books that you're here for. So the first book I ended up reading was Love is a Revolution by Renee Watson. And this is a book about a girl who hasn't really been in a relationship. So when she ends up meeting this guy at her sister cousin's social justice event, she gets like really into him and decides to lie about a few things to make herself look a little bit better in his eyes, or what she thinks he would like. And she ends up doing this more and more and more to kind of get the guy, and she starts getting caught up in her lies. Okay, update time. So first off, I am currently reading Love is a Revolution. I have gone through some ups and downs in the time that I started this because I am very uncomfortable reading this book. I do not enjoy a lot of the lying that this book is all about. And several times I thought, I'm just gonna DNF this. I don't enjoy that. It makes me anxious and I get like upset over and over. But then at the same time, like, the book is good. I'm interested in kind of figuring out how she learns from everything. And I do really like the activist part of everything and kind of focusing on people who are trying to better the world and what they're doing in their kind of group and their little communities and stuff like that. I really enjoy that. That's one of the reasons why I thought originally that this might be a 5-star prediction when I first heard about it. So I'm probably going to try to read it a little bit more. Hopefully I don't DNF it now that I'm so far into it. But admittedly, part of me does not want to pick it up again, and I just want to do something else. So we'll see how it goes. Okay. I have a lot to say about this book. This is difficult for me. So I just finished Love is a Revolution. I read the whole thing, even though I wanted to DNF it a bunch of times. It was really, really hard to get through. I do not like the lying aspect and the not communicating, and like, that's just a thing I do not like in books, which I've recently realized really, really bothers me. And the way that this was done, it just was pretty upsetting for a majority of the book. But there were parts of it that I was interested in. I loved the narration. It's narrated, the audiobook is narrated by Renee Watson, which is the author, and I really enjoyed that. In addition, I liked the writing style, I liked the characters, and I was interested in seeing how the book resolved the whole lying and miscommunication aspect of it, since that is kind of a big part of the plot in the story, is her going through this and, you know, finding out what happens in the end. So I pushed through it for some reason, and surprisingly enough, I ended up liking the book in the end. Now, I I don't know how to rate this because I wanted to DNF it so many times out of irritation and uncomfortableness. And I also don't know how to recommend this or not recommend this book to other people. I don't know, some things I think could have been done better. Some things I feel like kind of were blah in the resolving part of it, but I still enjoyed it for the most part. So I think I'm gonna give it 3 stars, I think. And that's it for that. So I, in the end, ended up liking this book a lot more than I thought that I would, because once I realized it was all about lying and deception and all of that revolving a sort of romance, I was all like, that's one of my least favorite things. I'm gonna hate this, it's horrible. But I think the book did a great job. Renee Watson did a great job handling that and not focusing on it in a way that just constantly made me uncomfortable while still having it be a big part of the story. Okay, so that's weird. Apparently, I don't remember it being as bad as it was now that some time has gone back. So like looking back at the book, I was like, yeah, it was a lot better than I had expected. I think perhaps because I expected to dislike it so much, I almost expected the uncomfortableness that I experienced throughout the whole thing. So looking back at it, I don't think of that as an intense surprise, more of just an expectation. So yeah, that's a fun thing. And still having it hold weight. So I feel like it fit really well with the story, and I liked the characters and the writing enough that I wanted to know what was going to happen in the end. So I kept reading through it despite being annoyed or uncomfortable at certain parts. So overall, I like this way more than I thought I would, and I think in the end I gave it something like 4 stars. Next up, we have A Princess in Theory by Alyssa Cole, which I believe is the first book in the Reluctant Royals romance series. And this story is basically about a woman who gets a bunch of spam emails from a prince and is asking for her personal information to verify that she's the correct person who can now be the princess of said place. And obviously she ignores the spam, but in reality, there is an actual prince, and he needs to go to New York, where she's located, for a princely event type thing that he has to deal with. So he's there anyway. He tries to find her so that he can communicate with her, but a misunderstanding ends up happening and he starts pretending to be somebody else so that he could get to know her a little bit more. I did just finish A Princess in Theory and I enjoyed it. It was cute. It wasn't my favorite. So I don't know. I did like this, but there was, I don't know, it was a feel-good book. Okay, so this is another book that focuses on that kind of lying foundation of a sort of relationship. I think in this case it was done very well, and I understood it a little bit more up front, and I understood it throughout a little bit more, and I also understood kind of how the story took us, and it made me a little bit more okay with the things. I just think it was very well done. That being said, I enjoyed the book, but I didn't love it. I think I ended up giving this 3 stars in the end, despite having a good time. It just, I don't know, it wasn't my favorite, it wasn't super memorable, there just wasn't anything that I was all like, yeah, I love that. But there were moments that I really, really did enjoy. So I do recommend this book, but it's nothing fantastic, I suppose. Next up, we have Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. And this book is basically about 2 girls, one in New York and one in the Dominican Republic, who have to deal with the outcome of a plane crashing that was leaving New York and on its way to the Dominican Republic, and each of them had somebody that they cared about on that plane, and they just have to figure out like what's happening. Is it serious? So it's kind of dealing with grief and, you know, fear. There's family elements, there's deception, there's all of these really heavy elements in this story. I finally picked up Clap When You Land, and reading this a second time, this book hits different. Oh my goodness, this is such a good book, and it's beautiful. I'm listening to the audiobook and kind of reading along and just kind of seeing how everything is like written. Come on, Tatiana. How everything is written. It's just, I'm so grateful to have gotten this. I'm so excited. I don't know, just the whole thing, everything's like hitting different. Listening to all of the different parts again in the very beginning before anything happens, because I literally just started this, like nothing has really happened yet. Like I feel like it was touching the first time, but like this time, oh man, I'm being hit in the feels with every verse spoken. So I finished rereading Clap When You Land, and if I could give this a higher rating than I did originally, I would, because I loved it. I adored it. Reading it through a second time was a phenomenal experience. Just I don't know how to express how much I love it. This is definitely like a favorite book of mine. It's so touching and emotional, and it hits in really strong ways. I feel like I have no issues with it this time around. Now, this was a reread for me. I loved it the first time. I listened to the audiobook. I did not actually have the physical book with me the first time, and I really enjoyed it. There were a couple of things that bothered me, and it wasn't that long ago. It was only a couple of months ago. It was the end of 2020 that I read it the first time, but I got it as a gift, and I decided that I was going to reread it again a little bit sooner than I normally would. And if I could rate it higher than 5 stars, I would. This is definitely a new favorite. I loved it even more the second time I ended up reading it. I listened to the audiobook while actually physically reading some of the sections. It is written in verse. It is beautifully done. I highly recommend the audiobook because it is narrated by both Elizabeth Acevedo along with another talented narrator, and it's beautiful. It sounds so lyrical, even though it is a novel, right? It's an actual story, but it's lyrical, it's pretty. I enjoyed the experience in addition to gaining more from the actual story. I feel like I can reread this over and over again, and I probably will over the years, because it's just, I love it. I love it so much. So 7 stars. All right, and then last up we have Every Vow You Break by Peter Swanson, and this was a Literally Dead book club pick for April, and it is about a woman who cheats on her fiance during her bachelorette party, and during their honeymoon the guy she slept with shows up, and it's her trying to deal with that. It's supposed to be like a horror thriller psychological thingy. I don't know. I'm really bad at those distinguishing those genres, but it's got those feels, the like thrillery vibe with possibly a little bit of horror. I don't know what constitutes as horror. Nothing is actually particularly scary, but I almost just didn't even pick this book up. So Scribd finally made my books available, so I started reading Every Vow You Break. And I was kind of into it in the beginning, despite the fact that this whole thing is about someone cheating, which if you've seen my videos, you know I hate. Currently planning on returning this because I just didn't want to put myself through it, just like in general. But because it's one of the Literally Dead book club's picks, and I saw that it was available on Scribd and it was supposed to be available today, I decided maybe I'd give it a shot, and if I liked it, I'd keep the book. And so far, like I said, the beginning, I was all like, okay, not too bad. Maybe this will go in a way that I can get behind that's interesting. Okay, so I don't know why, but I picked up Every Vow You Break again. I'm currently listening to it. I seem to like the narrator a lot. and overall I guess the writing comes out fairly smooth. I seriously dislike the premise, but the way it's going is kind of, I don't know, like, I don't know, I guess because it's supposed to be kind of a horror, I'm like not enjoying it, but I'm still just interested in finding out what happens. Like, I feel like there might be an interesting twist. That being said, I did hear someone say that it's just like a generic thriller book or something, so perhaps it's not, but I haven't read a lot of horror thrillers. Like, I'm still new to the genre, so I don't know how I feel about this. Okay, so at this point, the only reason why I'm interested in this is because I think there's something more to it, which now kind of makes me be like, all right, okay, I see you, okay. It is, I don't know, I'm like halfway through it, so I feel like it is kind of early for me to be figuring out whatever is happening. Okay, there's a direction that it's going that I hope it goes in. It can also be a front. Here's me talking about this book, trying not to say spoilers, but also like trying, like, I'm getting into it. I'm getting it, like, part of me is like not caring as much because I'm thinking something else is going on, and if that's the case, it's kind of like, okay, like, okay. All right, so as I was saying, I almost didn't pick this book up. I wasn't able to get the audiobook from my library. I didn't want to spend money on it from Audible. I didn't want to use one of my credits. So I was like, I'm just gonna return it. I'm not gonna read it, whatever. But it popped up on Scribd and I decided to listen to it. And I was really enjoying it despite the premise, like despite that whole part that I hate. I hate infidelity, I hate lies, I just hate that being such a big part of a book. I don't enjoy it, I don't understand it for the most part, and I've read several like psychological thrillers that were around infidelity that I thought were dumb, and it was stupid, I didn't enjoy it, it was pointless. But I feel like in this case, it was done very well, it was interesting, there were a couple of twists that I both expected and also didn't expect that kind of made it worth it and interesting, so I ended up loving this. I loved this book, like, quite a lot. I ended up giving it 4 stars, way more than I thought it would. It was better than expected, is basically where I'm at with this. So I would recommend it, despite the whole premise being what it was. It was interesting. There were parts of it that I was like, okay, I could get behind this, like, okay. There were other things to focus on, I think, is what did it for me. But there were some parts where I was all like, no, I hate this, I'm not gonna read it. I almost DNF'd it at one part, a specific instance during the honeymoon with said guy that I was just all like, seriously, this is where this book is going? So fortunately, I was interested enough to continue, and I ended up really liking it in the end. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever picked up a book that you thought you were going to hate, and for some reason you decided to read it anyway and ended up loving it, despite all the odds being against the book being a good one? If that has happened, let me know in the comment section down below, and let me know what book it was. Try not to do any spoilers, but like, let me know why you thought you were going to hate it, and in vague terms, why that ended up not being true. Again, no spoilers, please, but I really want to know, because I find that fascinating. But yeah, thank you so much if you got this far. If you did, be sure to include this emoji in the comment section. Any comments help the video, and I am now caught up to all of my comments, so I will respond as soon as I can. I'm gonna try and keep up with comments moving forward. We will see how that goes. But yeah, thank you so much for all of your support. Head on over to my art channel if you do want to see some art stuff moving forward, and stick around for more book stuff and life stuff on this channel. Hopefully once lockdown isn't a thing, there will be a little bit more life stuff, but I think I'm going to try and keep books as a main focus of this channel because it's fun and I enjoy it. I hope you're enjoying it too. Anyway, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. I have something fun planned for the next reading vlog. It's themed. It's gonna take a couple of weeks, and I think hopefully it ends up good. I haven't started it yet, so we'll see how it goes. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you in the next one. Until then,